Hello everyone, CJ here. This time we will talk about the Cleric class. The Cleric is a full spellcasting class. Unlike the wizards, who derive their magical powers through their study of the arcane, clerics channel the divine power of the deities to perform miraculous spells. Players who come from another gaming background may think of the Cleric as the dedicated healing class. While clerics have access to great selection of healing spells, not all of them are your plain old healers. Depending on the divine domain they choose, they can be war clerics who fight in the front line or tempest cleric who punish evildoers with lightning bolt. In fact, it is one of the most versatile class in D&D. If you want to know more about the cleric, then watch past the intro. The Cleric's spirituality is part of the class. Their power comes from the will of the deities manifested through them, and they are essentially divine agents. If you as a player are uncomfortable at role-playing the worship of a fictional deity, then you don't have to force yourself to. Just discuss it with your dungeon master, and I'm sure you can find a happy intermediary. Or just scrap the religious aspect altogether. It's just a game after all. If you're unsure of what deity to pick, once again, you can talk to your dungeon master and ask for recommendations. Generally, the deity should fit the cleric's divine domain. Divine domains are cleric archetypes that can significantly change the way clerics are played. Clerics have 7 divine domains, and they are Domain of Knowledge, Life, Nature, Tempest, Light, Trickery, and War. They get to choose their divine domain at level 1, so right off the bat you have to select your favorite playstyle. It also helps you decide which deity your cleric worship. I'll discuss the differences between those domains later in the video, so don't worry about it now. Clerics have great selection of healing and revival spells, but in D&D, monsters deal damage more quickly than the cleric can heal. The fact that clerics only get their spell slots back at the end of long rest means that healing is often uneconomical and should be used only when necessary. On most situations, characters should rely on well-timed rest to keep their hit points topped up. As a versatile class, besides healing, the cleric can take on various other roles depending on their chosen domain. They can even be side defenders due to their armor proficiencies. Let's go to the level breakdown and examine this in greater detail. The cleric's hit dice is 1d8, not too remarkable, just average. Without any modifier bonus or penalties, they start with 8 hit points and gain the average of 5 hit points per level. They are proficient in light armor, medium armor, and shield. That's pretty good to start with, but choosing certain domains, like the life domain, gives the cleric proficiency in heavy armor too. They are proficient in simple weapons, but may get more weapon proficiencies from certain divine domains. As I say, the divine domain can really change the nature of the cleric. Before moving on to saving throws, let's look at their equipment selection column. First entry, Warhammer if proficient. Some people are confused by this, because Warhammer is a martial weapon, and the cleric is proficient only in simple weapons. It simply means that if your cleric got the relevant proficiency from their choice of divine domain or character race, they can choose to start with that piece of equipment. For their saving throw, they have proficiency in wisdom and charisma, so they have better chance of resisting mind control and banishment spells. Like other classes, they can choose 2 skills from their class skill list, but it's a pretty small list of selections. As a full spellcasting class, the cleric can cast spells starting at level 1. They use their wisdom as their spellcasting ability, and their spellcasting mechanics is easier than the rest of the classes out there. So I think it's a great spellcasting class for beginners to start with. They start with 3 cantrips, but they know all the non-cantrip spells from their class spell list. So they don't need to pick and choose what spell to learn. They just need to have them prepared so that they can cast them per usual. Check out the class feature and spellcasting video if you need refresher on spellcasting. Clerics can prepare their cleric level plus their wisdom modifier number of spells. So a level 1 cleric with plus 3 wisdom modifier can prepare a selection of 4 different spells to cast with their spell slots. They can change the list of their prepared spells after the end of long rest by spending 1 minute for every spell level for each spell on their new list. That means that they need to spend time preparing all of them even if they have only changed 1 spell. Their divine domain gives them a few bonus spells they have prepared at all time. We will look at this in a few moments. Clerics can cast ritual spells if they have the spells prepared, and their spellcasting focus are holy symbols, which can be attached onto shields. That means they can cast spells using their shield, providing them extra protection. At level 1, they also has to choose their divine domain. This is an important decision because it specializes the cleric into certain roles. There are 7 divine domains, and it's going to take impossibly long if we're going to talk about all of them in great detail. So for the sake of brevity, I will choose the life domain, which further enhances their healing capabilities. Divine domains give the cleric extra proficiencies, domain spells, and a domain feature. Domain of Life clerics get proficiency in heavy armor and get the Bless and Cure Wounds spells prepared at all times. These spells don't count against the number of spells they can prepare with their spellcasting feature. They also get the Disciple of Life feature. Their healing spells heal extra 2 plus spell level hit points. So if they cast Cure Wounds as level 2 spell at higher level, they do extra 4 hit points of healing. At level 2, they get Channel Divinity. Using the power granted by their deity, they can choose to turn away undead or a specific feature granted by their divine domain. They can use Channel Divinity again after a short or long rest. To turn away undead, clerics use their action to present their holy symbol and speak a prayer. Each undead within 30 feet that can see or hear them will have to make wisdom saving throw to resist the effect. If they fail, they are turned for 1 minute or until they take damage. Turned undeads have to move away from the cleric. They can't willingly move to a space within 30 feet of the cleric, can't take reaction, they can only dash, try to escape from an effect preventing it from moving, or dodge if they have nowhere to move. The other divine domain effect granted by the domain of life is Preserve Life. As an action, the cleric can choose any number of creatures within 30 feet and divide among them the amount of hit points equal to the cleric's level times 5. This function can't restore the creature's hit points above half, so it's a feature that's best used in emergencies. At level 3, they get more life domain spells. Lesser Restoration, Spiritual Weapon, and they can prepare other level 2 spells such as Prayer of Healing. At level 4, they get their first ability score improvement and they can learn another cantrip for a total of 4. Level 5, the power of their cantrip goes up, dealing double the damage dice. Their Turn Undead feature can destroy undead creatures below challenge rating of half, which means that it will destroy zombies and other low tier undeads that failed their saving throw. Challenge ratings are a rough guide for monsters or NPC power level. You can find the challenge rating for undeads or other monsters in the monster manual. They also get the Beacon of Hope and Revivify life domain spells, and can prepare other 3rd level cleric spells such as Speak with Death. At level 6, they get 2 uses of Channel Divinity between Rest and the Blessed Healer life domain feature. When the cleric heal other creatures, they themselves regain hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. Essentially, they get a splash of their own healing. Level 7, they get Death Ward and Guardian of Faith life domain spells. They can also prepare other level 4 spells like Banishment. Level 8, their second ability score improvement and their Turn Undead feature can destroy undead up to challenge rating 1, like ghouls. The Divine Strike feature from their life domain lets them deal extra d8 of radiant damage when they hit a target. This feature only happens once a turn, and the power of this feature is increased to 2d8 at level 14. Level 9, they get their last set of life domain spells, Mass Cure Wounds and Raise Dead. They can also prepare other level 5 spells like Greater Restoration. At level 10, they learn their 5th and last cantrip, and they also get the Divine Intervention feature. With this feature, the cleric can use the action to call onto their deity to intervene. They need to describe the assistance they seek and roll the percentage dice, which is a combination of the decimal die and d10, or you can just use 2 d10s. If you roll a number lower or equal to the cleric's level, then the prayer is granted and the DM chooses the nature of the intervention. The intervention usually comes in the form of the cleric spell or divine domain spells. Because of the low probability of success, ask your DM to be generous with the effect. As a player, you may want to abuse this feature as part of your roleplay. It can be pretty good for a laugh. If the intervention occurred, then they can reuse the feature after 7 days. Otherwise, they can try again after a long rest. At level 20, the intervention occurs automatically. Level 11, the cleric's cantrip powers up and they deal triple the damage dice. Their Turn Undead feature can destroy undead with challenge rating 2, like Ghasts, and they get level 6 spells like True Seeing. Level 12, third ability score improvement. Level 13, clerics can prepare 7th level spells like Regenerate. Level 14, Turn Undead feature can destroy undead up to challenge rating 3 like Mummies. The power of the Divine Strike feature is increased to 2d8. 15, they can prepare 8th level spells like Holy Aura. Level 16, 4th ability score improvement. Level 17, reaching the epic tier, they get a bundle of powerful features. their Turn Undead feature can now destroy undead up to challenge rating 4, such as a Banshee. Their Cantrip does quadruple damage. The Life Domain Cleric gets Supreme Healing, which lets them restore the maximum dice roll amount whenever they cast spell to restore hit points. So if the Cleric casts Cure Wounds, without having to roll any dice, they restore the maximum amount of D8 and the relevant bonuses. They can also prepare level 9 spells, such as Astral Projection. Level 18, they can use their Channel Divinity feature 3 times between rests. Level 19, they get their 5th and last ability score improvement. Finally, at level 20, their Divine Intervention feature succeeds automatically. This feature can be pretty nifty, but if you have a nasty DM who is too stingy with his miracles, maybe you should multi-class, I don't know. Well, that is your 20 levels of Cleric. It may appear as if the Cleric is a dedicated healer, but that's because I have highlighted the Life Domain Cleric in this video. In general, they are great healers due to their access to a myriad of healing spells, but not all are as massively powerful at healing as Life Domain Clerics. Clerics of other domains specialize in other aspects of the adventure. The Knowledge Domain Clerics have features that boost their knowledge skills and some mind reading features, and can even gain temporary proficiency on skills through Channel Divinity. Life Domain Clerics, as we have seen, boost the Cleric's already great healing capability to a whole new level. Domain of Nature Clerics have great features that grant resistance against elemental damage towards themselves or their allies, and exploration features that let them communicate with plants and animals. Tempest Clerics get martial weapon and heavy armor proficiencies. Plus, Storm Team spells the Cleric wouldn't be able to get normally. They make pretty good balance between melee combat and damage dealing Spellcaster. Domain of Light Clerics get many Fire Team spells they wouldn't normally get. This is a great domain for those who like blasting as much as healing. They get many Fire Team spells they wouldn't normally get, such as Burning Hands or Fireball. Trickery, as the name suggests, involve lots of illusions and stealth boosting features. Well, if you have 7 domain choices, that is bound to be the worst one, and in my opinion, this is it. The feature of this domain is relatively lackluster, and one of its main features, which gives advantage to stealth rolls, doesn't work on themselves. So I wouldn't recommend this one unless you really love the team. But of course, that's just my opinion. Feel free to disagree in the comment, but be constructive, tell us why. War Domain Clerics are pretty powerful combatants. Their features allow them to stand almost toe-to-toe with fighters, but they still have massive amount of healing and support spells. In terms of multiclassing, it really depends on the build your Cleric is going for. Druids may look like a great fit due to having Wisdom as their main spellcasting ability, but because Druids don't wear armor made of metal, the Cleric would have to virtually sacrifice their armor proficiency. To be honest, there aren't that many classes Cleric may want to multiclass into. Maybe some players would want to do it to achieve the character concept they have in mind, but on the other hand, many classes may want to multiclass as Cleric, because not only that they will get another spell slot progression, it is also the only way to get proficiency in heavy armor if you started with a class without proficiency in it. You just need to pick the relevant domain. Anyway, thanks for watching the D&D 5e Cleric class guide. If there's anything here that you don't understand, you can always rewatch the Learn How to Play Dungeons & Dragons series, or ask in the comment section. If you liked this video, subscribe to the channel and press the bell button for more videos like this. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter to get notified on future releases, and a heartfelt thank you to all my patrons at Patreon for helping to make this series possible. If you like my work and want to help the channel out, please consider becoming a patron. CJ, over and out.